in the small, quiet town of Vermont. Every Thursday afternoon was a ritual for 14-year-old Oliver James. He'd make his way to the public library, a sanctuary of warmth and silence. For Oliver, the towering shelves filled with stories were a fortress, a place far safer and more comforting than the world outside its doors. He loved the smell of old paper, the gentle rustle of turning pages, and the shared unspoken agreement of quiet respect among its visitors. It was a place where you could be anyone, go anywhere, all without leaving your chair. One particularly rainy Thursday evening, as droplets traced patterns on the large windows, Oliver was returning a stack of books. The library was emptying out, the fading light casting long shadows across the floor. He placed his books carefully in the return cart, but then something caught his eye. A single book lay abandoned on a nearby reading table. This wasn't unusual, but something about this book was different. It didn't belong. He walked over, his curiosity piqued. Unlike the other library books, this one had no nameplate inside, no stamped card in a plastic sleeve, and most strangely, no barcode sticker on its spine or back cover. It was an anonymous, untracked volume. The only clue to its identity was a small, yellow, sticky note attached to the front cover. In simple, clear handwriting, it read, "Please don't throw this away." Oliver's heart gave a little jump. Why would someone leave this note? He carefully peeled back the sticky note and opened the book. On the inside of the front cover, another message was written, this time in neat, elegant cursive. It said, "This book helped me survive my hardest year. If you need it, take it. When you're done, leave it for someone else." He swallowed hard, a lump forming in his throat. The message felt deeply personal, like a whispered secret. The book itself wasn't a famous classic or a bestseller. It was a simple novel, one he'd never heard of, with a worn cover that spoke of being read many times. He flipped through a few pages. The story was about hope, about starting over, and about finding a glimmer of light even in the darkest of moments. It was a story about resilience. Oliver didn't check the book out. He couldn't. Instead, he gently closed it, placed the sticky note back on the cover, and left it exactly where he had found it on the table. As he walked home through the rain, the words from the inside cover echoed in his mind. Who wrote them? What was their hardest year like? And who was the book meant for now? The mystery was a story in itself, one that unfolded far beyond the pages of the novel. The following Thursday, Oliver returned to the library with a sense of anticipation. He scanned the reading room, his eyes searching for the familiar, plain-covered book. It was gone. A pang of disappointment hit him. Maybe a librarian had found it, and, seeing no barcode, had simply discarded it as the note had feared. But then, as he neared the table where it had been, he noticed something else. Tucked discreetly under the leg of a chair was a small, folded piece of paper. He picked it up and unfolded it. On it were just a few words, written in a different, hastier script. "Thank you. I needed this more than you know." A slow smile spread across Oliver's face. The book hadn't been thrown away. It had been found. It had served its purpose for someone else, another anonymous soul in this quiet town. The chain of kindness had continued. This secret shared between strangers, felt like a powerful, invisible thread connecting people in the quiet corners of the library. It was a silent conversation, a community of unseen hands passing along a beacon of hope. Weeks turned into months. Oliver's Thursday visits became a silent observation of this phenomenon. Sometimes the book would be back on the table, waiting patiently. Other times it would be gone, presumably on its journey with a new reader. But each time it reappeared, it brought a new message with it. The inside cover was becoming a collage of human experience, a testament to shared struggles and quiet victories. The notes were short, scribbled on scraps of paper and tucked between the pages. "This helped me breathe again," one read. Another said, "I didn't feel so alone while reading this." And another, simply, "Thank you to whoever started this." Each note was a tiny window into someone's life, a fleeting glimpse of their pain and their gratitude. The book was no longer just a story. It was a vessel, carrying the weight and warmth of human connection. It was a lifeline passed from one stranger to another in the hushed halls of the library. One afternoon, a librarian, a kind woman with silver hair named Mrs. Gable, noticed the collection of notes fluttering from the book as she was tidying up. She paused, her brow furrowed in curiosity. She picked it up, read the original inscription, and then carefully read through the small, heartfelt messages left by its readers. A look of profound understanding washed over her face. She saw this wasn't just a misplaced book. It was something special, something magical was happening in her library. Instead of putting it in the lost and found, she took out her phone and snapped a photo of the book, surrounded by the little notes of thanks. She posted it on the library's social media page with a simple caption, "A book in our library has been quietly helping strangers. This is the power of stories and kindness." She didn't expect what happened next. The post went viral. It started with comments from locals who recognized their library. Then it was shared by people in neighboring towns. Then across the state, and soon across the country. The story of the anonymous book resonated with thousands. People were touched by the simple, selfless act of leaving a book for a stranger in need. Inspired by the post, a movement began. People in other towns and cities started their own versions of the traveling book. They began leaving books with personal notes in their own local libraries, in coffee shops, on park benches, and on buses. They left stories of survival, novels of encouragement, and poems of hope, each with an invitation for the next person to take what they needed and pass it on. Libraries across the country started embracing the idea, setting up special shelves for these community books. Kindness was spreading, one book at a time, all sparked by a single mysterious volume in a small Vermont library. But through it all, the original book remained in its home. It never traveled far. It stayed in the quiet town where its journey began, continuing its silent mission. And Oliver, he never found out who wrote that first message. He never learned whose hardest year had inspired such a beautiful act of anonymous generosity. The originator of this wave of kindness remained a secret, but Oliver didn't need to know. What he did know was something far more important. He had witnessed firsthand that sometimes the most powerful and life-changing stories are unteigned, the ones that are shouted from the rooftops or read out loud to a crowd. They're the ones that are passed quietly, gently, from one stranger to another, a silent offering of hope in a world that so often feels loud and lonely. The library was still his sanctuary, but now it held a new kind of magic, the magic of unseen connections, and the simple, profound kindness of a shared story. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched you, please give this video a like and consider subscribing for more stories that warm the heart. See you next time.